Okay, so someone with spasticity after a stroke. So this patient presents with a clenched fist, a synergistic pattern, as well as a limited shoulder motion. They are a wheelchair user. So they're limited in flexion, extension, supination of wrist, unable to fully extend fingers, and unable to make a full fist. So what do I normally recommend? So when they come in and they're full flexion pattern, right? Then you are looking to work one segment at a time. So it's impossible to then think that somehow they can extend and extend, right? Extend fingers and extend wrist. The only thing you could do is work flexion and work on wrist, on finger extension, or leave the fingers alone and work on wrist. It depends on how much motion they have based on how tight they are. So again, I'll ask them to move, and if their shoulder's really stuck, you're not gonna get very much doing just hand stuff. Just have them keep their hands there and put their good hand on top of their bad hand on their belly. You can try the rotation and try the rotation. I bet you if you rotated them in any direction, whether it's good or it's bad, but obviously without pain to the shoulder, you could actually check to see if they can come out of it just a little bit. I was working with my friend's father who had a stroke earlier, like a few months ago. And I just did a Zoom call with them, and he had just had the stroke and he had some motion. But the thing is, people always tell patients to squeeze. And in actuality, we need to work on extension. So I did a ton of extension. I know it's not as like fun as like trying to find some activity that they could do, but if they just worked on a ton of extension without flexion, and then you ask them to squeeze, check how much motion they have. When you can prove to your patients that there's something that you did that was just made a smidge of a change, they can see that there's hope and possibility. And you have to reset them and say, well, depending on your stroke, you know, how much you do impacts how much you can actually get. Like, strokes take a long time, and it's very, very hard for stroke people to use their arms. It's like you're stuck between a rock and a hard place when it comes to working with arms and strokes, because you can't get any motion, so it makes it hard to stay motivated to move, right? But if you moved more, you'd actually see more results if you got to it fast, right? If you started working on strokes early. The brain has a huge chunk for the arm and hand because we have so much sensation into it. But what happens is when you get a stroke, so much of it is damaged. And at no point do you get the same type of feedback in your arms the way you get in your legs. And so it's always been my theory. I don't know, I have not looked it up, and nor am I going to do any research on it and find evidence of what I'm saying. However, I do know that when you sit on your ass, you're sitting on your hip joints. And when you're sitting on your ass a lot and your feet touch the ground, you're still getting proprioceptive input into your feet that go through your ankle and up into your knees, right? And in your arms, you get none of that. Half the time your arm is hanging and you don't get any support for that arm. And when you do get some support, it's like too late, you know, because nobody paid attention to that shit for 6 months. Right, so you've got to reset your expectations in terms of what you can do and how you can help that person. I totally can help people with stroke, and I think that they always need, you have a stroke, you're going to need therapy for the rest of your life. Just like me and keep coming back. Because I can still help you. You might get tired of me for a while, but when you're not tired of me anymore, you need me, come back. Because those people, no matter, you know, the idea that we're supposed to help someone in a wham bam thank you ma'am type of mentality, like a fracture, is not true in people with nerve issues, especially like that. They're going to be needing restorative maintenance or whatever over a period of time. And I would just say start with some shoulder motions. Twisting is a huge thing. I wish, honestly, I knew that stuff when I was in acute care. because if I did, I think that I would have gotten, even better results now than I had in the past. But start with some shoulder stuff, loosen up that scapula, do some, in sitting, you can grab underneath here and do some scapular mob, and then when you do some of that and you do some trunk twisting, check on like, how can he extend? How can she extend her wrist? How can she open her fingers? You're looking for small increments of motion to show that the thing that you're asking them to do actually works. And then by that, they'll stay a little bit more motivated. Don't worry about making a full fist. The flexor synergy will make that fist for them. You got to work on extension.